Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning? And as you get here, make sure that you say hello and let me know that you're here. And I'll be with you in just a moment. Those that have been around for a while, you know it takes a few minutes to get everything lined up and working. It used to not be this way, but it's perfect that we can do it, right? There we go. Ta-da. All right, so let me get this set up. Good morning, Carrie. Good morning. Great to have you here. Let me have a sip of my coffee. It was quite cold this morning when I took the dog out. And it's just going to be getting colder and colder every single day for the next week. But, this is Georgia, so it'll only last about a week, I think. And then it'll be warming back up. So I feel grateful that we do have exceptionally cold weather sometimes, but when we do, it's not for very long. I don't think I could. I don't think I would be comfortable living in an area that it has exceptional cold all winter long. Chilly here. Oh, okay. Yep. Well, if it's chilly there, you know it's chilly here. All right. So, how has your week been? I mean, I can't believe it's Saturday already. Of course, all week I've had a little bit of a confusion in my mind about what day it is because when in the 50s, it's in the 30s here right now. So, yeah, it'll be getting up to the 50s. um, the um, the thing is, now I forgot what I was saying. I got so excited about the temperature thing. Okay, it'll come back to me, right? But I'm excited to be here this morning, and I I've had this little. I had a piece of paper with some different ideas written down. Like this is the back of an Amazon receipt, so I find anything that I have around me when I really need to write something down, and so when I was thinking of this thought, I didn't even remember that this is one of the things that we did when I had that master class um, where Laura and I did it together because she's the improv person. I didn't even remember that that was part of the improv thing. So anyway, I'm going to share. Oh, I forgot. I haven't put this in the queue. So let me do it really quick. So good morning. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Kimmy. Good morning. All right. All right. So, like I said, when I did that program, or Laura and I had that program together, that she did some improv with this, but we're not going to really do it as an improv kind of thing. But it's kind of. Let me just share. I'll do it this way. All right. So our affirmation is, I live a yes and life, embracing opportunities and possibilities with open arms, and say yes to growth, joy, and the magic of what's next. Now, when Laura did this exercise with us with improv, it was that one person would start a story and then you would say, and they would pass it on to the next person, and you'd say yes and then you would expand on it in a different way, and you were just constantly saying yes and, right, which was beautiful. But where's my notes here? I've got some notes. Let me find them really quick. Where the heck did they go? Here they are. Okay. So I made some notes so that I could expand on this, because, well, let me share one of the things that when I was thinking of it that came to my mind is when I was in college, my freshman year in college, the summer between freshman and sophomore year, I went home to visit and I was dating someone, and we ended up getting engaged during that summer break. And then I quit college because I was married. And I remember I was talking to one of my salon clients one day, and he said something about college. And I said, yeah, well, I went 1 year to college and then I quit to get married. And he said, what do you mean you quit to get married? And I said, well, I got married, so I quit college. And he said, well, why could you not be married and go to college? And it was like, in the moment, that never occurred to me. It was like you did one or the other. So that was definitely not a yes and life. That was a yes, but life. Yes, but I can't continue to be in college if I'm married, right? And so I think we do that with a lot of things. We live a yes, but life. And I will say, I had a conversation with Christine yesterday, and I even told her, I said, I'm not arguing for my limitations. But then later on, I was looking at it and I thought, yes, I was. And we do that sometimes, right? When we say, that sounds like a really good idea, but this, and it's like, no, no. So I'm reevaluating some of the normal responses that I have about things, right? So I want you to think about it. Where in your life are you doing a yes, but in your life instead of a yes, and, right? So there's, let me get back up here to so one of the things is that when you're living a yes and life, it means that you just have simple acceptance. So each challenge, and we talk about these challenges, opportunities that show up as challenges quite a lot in the group, right? But each challenge becomes a launch pad for innovation. So when a challenge comes up, you say, okay, yes, and now, right? So setbacks transform into setups into something else. Like we've talked about before too, that song that I love by Garth Brooks, and it's I thank God for unanswered prayers, because sometimes we're asking for something that's not in our best interest and where we're wanting to go, right? And then just ordinary everyday moments can contain seeds of extraordinary possibilities when we live a yes and life, right? And then our personal growth, all this stuff that we're doing together, becomes just a natural outcome of our daily choices. So it really means that you're not accepting what comes, but intentionally building upon it. So, like, for example, somebody that maybe had a job loss, one might say, yes, this happened, and I'll use this time to explore that business idea I've always had, right? And yesterday, what was it? I shared the story of Jerry and Esther Hicks, where they're in the motorhome and she has to put on her brakes, and this glass shelves just shatter, and all the trinkets and the things that had been given to them over many, many years. And Jerry looked at it, and instead of saying, he said, great, something new to want. So that's a yes and life, right? So we shift our limitations to expansion. So instead of, like, if you ever find yourself saying, I'm too busy, I don't have time, then when you shift to a yes and life, you say, I'm fully engaged and I'll redesign my schedule to accommodate what matters. Because let's face it, when it comes to our schedule, we do the things we really want to do. The things that we procrastinate on or we forget about are the things that we really weren't that keen on anyway. That's why I love this program that Christine and I have, because one of the things that I will be really quick is to run out of time or whatever about the movement part, right? Because I've never been that person that loved to exercise. I would do it for a goal of losing a certain amount of weight, but it wasn't something that I went to all the time. Now, I do love to go out and go walking and that kind of thing, but as far as working out, nah. Um, and that's something I'm going to work in within me, because maybe it's something my body wants and I just have to tune into it. But that I'll be playing with that later. But there's so much that we avoid because it's really something we don't like to do or we don't want to do, right? And let me share real quick. One of the things I had hired a business coach, and I was working full time in the salon at the time, and he wanted to do. We were doing scheduled calls 3 times a week: Monday, a Wednesday, and Saturday. Now, all of his calls were in the middle of the day. Monday was great because I didn't work on Monday. But Wednesday, it was like in the middle of my day. And on Saturday, in the middle of my day. And I said, I'm a hairstylist. I can't do that. And he said, I thought you were all in and you wanted to do this. And I said, I am. And he said, well, then let me ask you a question. He said, our meeting on Saturdays at noon. He said, if you had a client Saturday at noon, what would happen? And I said, well, I would schedule them in and then I would have my next person coming after that. And he said, okay, so if you're really committed, then I expect you to put this in your schedule just like it's a client. I thought, okay. And I did that. And it was amazing. I was able to do it every single time. Now, that meant I worked a little bit later in the day, but it wasn't like I told anybody, I've got this business meeting, I can't do then. I just said, I've got an appointment right then. And I marked it off of my book for every week, right? And so we can do those things. We can live a yes and life, because I was trying to live a yes, I want to do this, but no, he said, you're either committed or you're not. And so all I had to do was redo my schedule, right? Let me see what's happening over here. Okay. So the other thing would be, like, if you ever catch yourself saying, I don't have enough resources, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough of this, right? So you could shift it to, I'll start with what I have and find creative ways to gather what I need. Very different, right? So that kind of eliminates dead ends, replacing them with doorways to new possibilities. So yes, and opens doors that you have closed, right? And you can jump into life's flow. So you can, if you're fighting against reality, the reality that you see, maybe you can just start opening up your capacity for creative flow, right? So instead of fighting against reality, you dance with it. We talk about the dance all the time, right? Rather than resisting change, you embrace it as a partner in creation. And then I love this. You view other people's ideas as building blocks rather than competitive alternatives, right? So it's using and seeing everybody as a collaborator, everybody as an idea of, I love what they're doing and how can I expand on it? And there are times that I catch myself in some of those places too, where I see somebody doing something amazing and I'll think, I want to be able to do that, right? So that sounds like I'll never be able to do it, right? And so I've changed that, where now I'll say, that is a beautiful idea. That's a beautiful way to illustrate this. And how can I expand on that and make it better, right? So there's some daily things that we can do to kind of tap into this yes and life. So I can't tell who is here and who is not. So hopefully you can still see me. I was tapped over to that screen and it is black. So hopefully You can still see me. Can you still see me, guys? Let me know. I'll keep going. So one of the things to kind of get you into this flow of living a yes and life is to kind of practice when it's really low stakes, right? When it's not that big a deal, right? You don't feel pressure or anything like that. So it may be somebody calls you and says, let's go have a cup of coffee. And you first thought is, I'd love to do that, but I've got to get this done, right? So maybe you could do, yes, I'd love to go have coffee with you, and I need to get this done. How about I bring my laptop with me and we sit there and I can work on things while we talk, right? Beautiful. Thank you, Kimmy. Thank you, Carrie. It's so funny when I go back over to look at the Facebook to see if there's any actual things that I can't see on here. I'm not even there. I'm not even there at all. And so I invite you to look at where you might be doing a yes, but, and change it to a yes, and. So one of the things you can do is when something pops up that may be kind of difficult, you can pause a minute before you respond, right? And then you can ask yourself, what can I add to this situation? And we've talked about this many, many times about how opportunities show up as obstacles. And a lot of people let those obstacles throw the brakes on and make them feel that they're on the wrong path, right? But you and I, look for hidden opportunities in every single challenge. So remember, every yes and response that you have builds your capacity for future creativity. So you end up with communities where you can have more collaborations, innovations increasing in organizations, you can deepen your relationships, your resilience grows, and the world becomes more predictably rich. Nice, right? And remember, the yes and life doesn't mean that it's like, remember Jim Carrey's movie that he was in, The Yes Man? It doesn't mean that. So you're not going to say yes to everything just to see what happens. I mean, I love that movie. So if you've never seen it, go and take a look at it. But it's in the movie, he lived a very mundane life. He did the same thing every day. He ate the same thing every day because he was on this strict thing. And then he ended up going to a conference, and he was challenged in a way to say yes to everything. And as he did, he ended up meeting people. He ended up doing a lot of things that he wouldn't have done. But some of it was kind of like, but anyway, the thing is, when you can tap into your yes and life, you're engaging in what life presents and actively contributing to creating what comes next. So it's about not only accepting, but generating things, right? So both realistic and optimistic, grounded and aspirational. You've got this, right? So I would love to know, as your day goes on, if you would come into the group and just say, my yes and life did this. I would love, because this to me this morning just feels like it's golden. We're into the new year, and the new year is full of possibilities. So the next time somebody says something to you and you say, oh, I'd love to, but stop yourself right there and say, wait a minute, give me a moment, let me think. And then you can decide if it can be a yes and, right? Maybe not always, but maybe it would be, instead of saying, yes, I would love to do that, but you could say, yes, I would love that to do. However, that's not my financial responsibility right now, or that's not my financial goals right now, or that's not where my time is best spent right now. So it's, instead of having the but in there, you have either a and you keep going, or a however. So because but negates the thing that came before. So if you say, oh, that's such a great idea, I'd love to, but you've just said that those first few things that I said, bullshit. Um, let's see, what does this say? I used to be very disciplined with my time. When my kiddos were little, everything was on a calendar. Now that I'm an empty nester, I roll with whatever the wind blows, meaning on weekends especially, I don't plan anything, because if something pops up, I roll with and add in what I have to do, but just do that later. Yes. Yes, I love that. I love that, Kimmy. So now let me grab the journal prompt. Where am I on time? Okay. Oh, hold on. Let me redo that. Let's see. Will it pop back over here? There we go. So give me just a second. Let me take this off. And as you get here, make sure that you say hello and let me know that you're here. All right. One little piece of this didn't show up. All right. So our journal prompt for today. What would your life look like if you fully embraced a yes and mindset? Reflect on how saying yes and to challenges, opportunities, and even unexpected could expand your growth and possibilities. Won't that one be fun to really dive into, right? And when I was first thinking about this morning, and I wrote this little note a couple of days ago with a couple of ideas that popped in my head, and so I've just been using them as I go. I was thinking about the times in my life that I have had a yes but life and not a yes and life. And so that was beneficial to me to look back and see if I had said yes and, how would that have changed things? And going back and looking, you don't know for real, but it kind of gives you a feel. If I had not closed the door on that opportunity, what was possible? And if I hadn't said, I do, and then I got to quit college, what would have been possible? And it's not like I'm going back and wanting to change. What I'm wanting to do is look back and see, what did I keep myself from doing that might have been amazing, so that I can look closer at today when something comes up. If I say yes, and I now have a little bit more ability, I think, to evaluate in the moment. And so one of the great things is to take this pause when somebody asks you something and you automatically want to go to yes, but, or I would love that, but that sounds great, but I'd love to learn that, but, right? It is time to start looking at that and just taking a pause before you answer someone. And even if it's like, and I know I've done this before, where somebody gave me an idea, or they wanted me to help them with something, and it was like, I don't know. I said, give me a day to think about it. And you're very capable of doing that. That's one of your boundary things, right? One of the hardest things is when you're out and about and somebody just suddenly pops in with something and they demand that you let them know right then. That's like a big red flag for me. If you think, if I'm going to go home and think about it, I'm not going to do it, then I think I'm going to say no now. But it's like giving yourself that breathing room to think before you answer, right? And then the beautiful thing is when you can start living a yes and life, the golden opportunities that are going to be there, right? It's beautiful. And the more you can say yes to life, the more life's going to bring you to say yes to. It's a beautiful thing. Hold on, let me check over here. Don't want to be ignoring anybody. Good morning on Instagram. Thank you for being here. And if you want to pop into the conversation, just put some comments in the comment section. That would be the best place to put them. So I would like to ask if you've had anything this week, this past week, that maybe you said, yes, but. Like I just shared, I was talking to Christine, and it was all about the preparing your meals ahead of time and stuff, right? Because she's helping me right now with some of my menopause issues with my diet, right? And when she started telling me about it, it was like, no, it sounds like a great idea, but I don't like to do all that. So then when I was really thinking about this affirmation and journal prompt, it's like, okay, what would have been a better response, right? Not to say I was wrong, but how could I have said it better? So maybe it could have been, yes, that's a great idea. And I'll explore that a little bit and see if that feels good to me. That would have been a much better response, right? And so that's just one thing that I said yes, but to. And I'm sure there were more once I sit back and evaluate it, right? So I'm going to go back to our affirmation. I live a yes and life. Yes and, right? Embracing opportunities and possibilities with open arms. I say yes to growth. I say yes to joy. And I say yes to the magic of what's next. Put that on your index card, the screensaver on your phone, your sticky notes. Put it somewhere that you're going to see it today and over the weekend. Thank you, Carrie. Living your yes and life. It's time, right? Are you ready? There you go. Yes, and come on. Yes, and I'm going to. Yes, and I'm working on it. Yes, and it sounds amazing. Yes, and I'm going to live a yes and life. Yeah. All right, so now let's go back over to our journal prompt. What would your life look at if you fully embraced a yes and mindset? Reflect on how saying yes and to challenges, opportunities, and even the unexpected could expand your growth and possibilities. So what I recommend all the time is to take out your notebook or your journal. I write in my journal, universe, show me how great today will be. Ooh, I love that, Carrie. I love that. Yes, and that sounds amazing. So put the date, the affirmation, and the journal prompt in your notebook or your journal, and then set a timer to just sit in silence for 10 to 15 minutes and just be with your thoughts. And the thing is, we want to quiet that chatter that goes on so that you can get your internal intelligence showing up and sharing with you, right? Because our conscious mind is just going to be busy on task, and it's going to have all the reasons why there should be a but in that sentence and not an and. It's just going to tell you all the things, right? And once you really tap into that silent space where you're just quiet and you're breathing, you're listening to the sound of your breath. Sometimes you can pay attention to what the temperature is of the breath that comes in and the breath that comes out. Just staying in the present moment, right? And then when your timer goes off, you just get your pen and your paper and you just write down everything that shows up, everything, no judgment, no critiquing, no nothing. Just write it out. It's just for you. And you might be surprised at what shows up, and that because one of the things I really would like for you to do is to evaluate some times in your life when you were faced with a decision and you said, yes, but, or I'd love to, but, and then you didn't do it. What could have been different? Just play with this. And so it gets you more in tune to how things could be different when things come to you now, and you catch yourself, yes, but what if it could be a yes and, right? How would that be different today? And so as you're going through the weekend, through next week, throughout the entire month, just notice every single time you do that, yes, but, and catch yourself in the moment, and keep a little notebook with you. I have a little one. It's not in here. It's in my purse. Oh, I've got one here too. Right here. And when something shows up and you recognize it, write it down and then flip it and say, is it possible that this could be a yes and? Because remember, we don't want to just blanket say yes to everything, because not everything's in our best behavior, our best interest, right? Yes, and mindset lifestyle would be different and will be unique adventure to learn, and life will be fun. Be more freeing and stress less. Yes, Kimmy, I love that. I love that. So after you write everything down, then you just look at it and say, oh, I now see how things could have been different. But remember, there's nothing wrong with anything that you did before. Because if you said yes, but, and you didn't do something, like me with college, maybe I wouldn't have done well. I don't know. Maybe it's not what I needed, because what I was studying is not what I do now. So it's not necessarily saying that you regret any action that you took. It's saying, I took this action and I would like to know, if I had made a different decision, how could it have played out differently, so that as I move forward and I'm making decisions, I can stop myself and decide whether it's a yes and or a yes however. Feel good? All right. I have, let me see what's anything said over here. Okay. So I would love to expand on this a little bit more this morning, but I do have a client to get to. So I am excited to hear. You can send me a direct message if you want to, or you can post it in the group. And just so anybody that is watching this on the replay, put #replay, join in the conversation. I would love to hear. And if you're not part of the Stand Up and Stand Out community and you're watching from somewhere else, all you have to do to join this amazing community is go to vickypoole.com, VICKIEPOOLE.com, and you'll be prompted to answer some questions. And that is the price of admittance. It's a free group, but I'm very protective of the group. And so this is only one of the ways that I can see that it is a good fit to have you in there. And so I would love to have you join us. And so, like I said, answer the questions. I just recently had a couple more people that have come in and they answer the question for the group rules, but they don't answer the other questions. And so you have to answer all the questions to become a member. And so, beautiful. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Kimmy. So I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. And I would love, love, love to know more about how you living your yes and life can change everything for you, because it can. And then maybe at some point we can play the game of the yes and game that they do in improv. It was so much fun. And maybe we'll play with that a little bit. Maybe we'll have a yes and party. That might be fun, wouldn't it? Maybe I can get Laura to pop in on that one. See if she'll be there to share and to expand us a little bit more, right? Because I'm not an improv expert. I've never done improv, but that is one of the things on my goal list for this year is to find an improv that works with my schedule and just play with it, right? Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we could figure out a way to do it online and a bunch of us get together for improv. All right. So see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern and live your yes and life today. Love you guys.